Hello, screenwriters. Scott Marcus, the Senior Content Manager of the ISA, coming back again with another screenplay formatting video for you. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope your projects are going smoothly and you don't even need a rewrite. But before we get into the video, I wanted to start the best way possible, and that is by taking a look at comments from you. First off, Akiva Penaloza, which, that is a great name, on the video on how to format a telephone conversation scene or sequence, writes, super helpful, even for an old hack like me. And you know what? If you've been doing this forever, if you're just getting started, if you are young, if you are less young, it's always a good time to go and see how other people are doing things, how somebody else writes something. And I know I can be as guilty as anybody with this kind of cliche statement, which is that writers don't read enough. We don't read enough scripts. And again, I am more guilty than most at that, which is one of the really fun things about this series that I'm doing now is it's forcing me to go pull out some screenplays. Maybe I've seen a movie 500 times, like the one we'll talk about today, but I haven't yet read the script. So we're going to discover it together a little bit. So it's always helpful to read other people's work and to get other people's opinions on even basic things. We're always learning, right? That's the point of life. On the video about character descriptions, Larry Coleman writes, I love this. I try to write character descriptions as lean as possible after being repeatedly told early on to chop the descriptions. However, I'm rebelling in my old age and will try to meet somewhere in the middle. Readers make strange bedfellows. Some like more, some like less. Some from where I sit couldn't care either way. Thanks, Scott. Well, thank you, Larry, for taking the time to comment. Larry, of course, is a 2021, I believe, top 25 screenwriter to watch with the ISA. So somebody that we are very proud of. But he's right. There's not an exact formula on how many characters make for a good character description or a good descriptive action or anything else setting. The point at the end of the day is be entertaining. Always be entertaining. And if that takes a few more words, that's okay as long as the payoff is there. But if you do see a chunk of text in your screenplay, first off, let's see if you can break it up. Let's see if you can trim it down. But if it needs to exist in its entirety like that, really make sure that it is entertaining as well as getting the point across. It should be fun to read. So thank you for that comment, Larry. Calrissian Visionary Productions, which I don't know if he's got permission from George Lucas for that name yet, but on the video we did on location descriptions, in which case we used the original Scream 1996 screenplay for that video. He said he definitely read that script multiple times and it will always be one of his favorite horror scripts. I said it in the video too, but the movie I thought was very good. The screenplay I loved, and I didn't pick that up until doing this previous video. Kathy Fleming says, thanks for the comparison for writing characters. As a writer, you always have a picture of a character in your mind and tend to write more details. Yeah, it's kind of amazing how much can be said with not a ton of words. And on this note, we will do another character description video coming up. I actually recorded a whole bunch, too much in the first go. So there's a lot of unused footage, and I'm going to add some more characters to it. So if you want me to look at any specific characters or films for that video, comment in this one and I will definitely include it. And finally, Julia has a request, which I'm very excited. It's a big milestone because I really do want to be making the videos that you want to see. Because Julia made a request, I'm shooting this video. Julia would love to hear me talk about scenes that are repeatedly intercut between different settings with different characters back and forth. For example, to show what happens simultaneously, like the Devil Wears Prada example, which was from the character description video. I'm unsure of the correct formatting of such scenes. Absolutely a very good question. Sometimes when we are plotting something out in our head, it seems like this big ball of action that's all happening at the same time. And sometimes you want that action to be happening simultaneously. Of course, there are movies that do the split screen where we literally see what's happening in both. For this example, that would be a cheat. But that is how it feels in your head sometimes, that these actions are happening at the same time. So I want to write them at the same time. Let's take a look at how it's been done before. Now, my first thought of this was a movie like, one of the Oceans movies, Oceans 11, 12, 13, where it's a heist film. There's a whole bunch of different characters in different parts of the casino and outside the casino, and they're all doing different things at the same time. And then somebody with the ISA suggested one of the greatest movies ever. I'm a little bit biased because I did happen to work on it. A little bit of a title name drop, I guess. But in The Dark Knight, there's an amazingly tense sequence that we are going to take a look at. And as a very, very, very short, because I don't want to be too indulgent, aside, when I left film school, I had two huge goals that I wanted to work on, types of movies. I wanted to work on a Batman movie, and I wanted to work on a Judd Apatow movie. I love how he creates characters, and the comedy that comes out of these moments Sometimes it can be raunchy, 40-year-old virgin, stuff like that. But there's always so much heart and friendship in his movies that I really want to work on a Judd Apatow movie. And then I got my dream come true. I got booked on Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which Judd didn't direct that, but he produced it. He was on set. He was involved with the writing of it. I did get to meet him. But on my very first day on set, before we begin rolling on the very first shot on the first day of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, my phone rings. Who is it? Production people in Chicago asking me to come and work on The Dark Knight. And I had to say no to Batman. Now, fortunately, Forgetting Sarah Marshall was a much smaller movie. It wrapped up a lot quicker. So I was able to work on all of the Hawaii Forgetting Sarah Marshall stuff, then fly to Chicago. By then, the principal photography was done, which is really a bummer because that's when it feels like making a movie. When you're in a small set, a small scene, even Batman has quiet moments where you would just be a small amount of crew people and then the actors on set. I was there for stunts, which has its own separate amazingness to it. I got to see them cartwheel an 18-wheel truck down LaSalle Street in downtown Chicago, but I had the smallest job in the planet. And it was definitely, I was not hanging out with Christopher Nolan or anything like that. And the fact is, that was a pretty fun summer, being able to knock off two of my big filmmaking goals in the same summer. Judd Apatow to Batman. What a tag team that would be, too. I'd see Judd Apatow as Robin. So let's check out this scene.
You have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength. Don't worry, I'm gonna tell you where they are.
Okay, so I'm coming into, first off, good God, what an amazing movie. What an amazing performance by Heath Ledger. Just have to get that out there. I know it's been said once or twice before, but wow, it's just amazing watching this. I'm picking this up in the middle, actually towards the end of the scene, because it's a long dialogue scene. We don't need to see all of it for our purposes here. So we will pick up the interrogation room towards the end in progress. And this is my interpretation. I still have not seen the screenplay for it yet. So this is me writing out the tail end of the interrogation scene as we move forward.
Both of them. And that's the point. You'll have to choose. He's at 250 52nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just it.
Which one you going after?
Rachel.
So for the purposes of this video, I'm not including writing in some of these kind of almost montage-y type of moments, B-roll of police getting ready and racing down the street, that kind of stuff. I'm bypassing that for our purposes here.
Rachel?
Okay, so first off, nothing is happening at the same time yet. We see the action from the police side, and then we cut over to Harvey. And this is an interesting point that I can't wait to see on the screenplay, because we have Harvey Dent and Rachel both tied up in warehouses, and we don't really see anything about them. The only thing that I noticed differently is that Harvey's is well lit and Rachel's is not. So that's all I put, darkened warehouse, whereas Harvey's is a warehouse. That's it. It's going to be interesting to see how they differentiate it in the screenplay. So again, my perspective when it comes to the written screenplay is that this is the blueprint for the crew of people that you have never met on set. This is going to help them do their job better. So really, at the beginning here, I do have interrogation room night. I wouldn't even probably need to do that because that is a continuation of the Joker getting apprehended earlier. So we know it's night. I put it in here just because we're starting off our version of the screenplay. Continuous says to them that, hey, make this light match that light. It is the same time of night. We are not in daytime yet. It is continuous. We are still at nighttime. And the fact that this is basically we're back to a telephone conversation type of scene. So I don't even say continuous here. You could tell that the conversation is ongoing. For this video here, I'm just going to go ahead and get to the end of this scene. So now we are in a scene that is happening simultaneously. I don't know, when I first thought about the scene, I was thinking about them on each side, but no, it's basically just, it's not simultaneous. The time is moving forward as we experience their conversations going on. The real simultaneous action is happening here at lockup, at the Gotham prison. Okay, and there you have it. I mean, it's as easy as that. This is happening simultaneously. Now, of course, I'm breaking my own rule. I think I've said a couple times on previous videos that your scene slug, you just keep it to day or night, keep it simple, if anything. Try to avoid putting anything if you can. And here's something that maybe most people wouldn't put. I am putting it in to make sure it's very obvious that this is happening simultaneously. And again, it's that clue. Time of day, this is happening at the exact same time. So if this was a day shoot, I mean, it's very easy to make things match when you're shooting the dark night because almost everything shot at night. And we did shoot almost exclusively from sunset to sunrise.
I want my phone call. I want it. I want my phone call.
That's nice.
How many of your friends have I killed?
So once again, I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead to the end of the scene with some unbelievable needling from the Joker. Hats off on some incredible dialogue from Jonathan and Christopher Nolan.
You killed 6 of my friends.
This is yet another thing that is happening simultaneously. I mean, it is possible that this is happening after, but it's so close. And also, we want to keep the tension. Even among the reader, you know, for us as the viewers, we hear that dun 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 dun, that driving, that tension building riff. We want the readers to feel that. So we say that this is happening. Oh yeah, and also this is happening, and this is happening too. It's all happening at once. So let's go ahead, get into character scene description, and I am going to put simultaneous here once again. I'm going to point out too, because we'll see that this is a payoff. This is important for later. That this location is just a couple rooms over. I'm curious about this too. Is he referred to as Joker all the time or the Joker when it's in a scene description?
Please, my insides hurt.
I don't really care. Back away.
The boss said he'd make the voices go away. He said he'd go inside and replace them with bright lights. Like Christmas.
You're out of your mind, pal. Back off. Medic right away in the holding tank. Come on, get the door open. You guys back off!
Okay, so here we are. Finally through that one now. Now we're back for the first time, coming back to either of the warehouses. And this is where I would then put in continuous. So think of it like this. And also, when it comes to writing, when it comes to scheduling, I love to have note cards. It helps me be organized, helps me visualize and be able to physically move things around. So I think how I might do this if I were to write a sequence like this is I would have the 3 note cards. The beginning of the conversation, you know, Dent wakes up in the warehouse and begins the conversation. That's 1 note card. Right next to it, Joker and Stevens has that "how many of your friends have I killed" speech. Right next to that, the inmate begins to convulse on the ground. That's all happening at the same time. Next column down, we have the continuation of this scene. So those all happen simultaneously, and then this next bar of action happens immediately after, so it's kind of continuous from that first level. So that's how I would organize it. The very most important thing is it clear? Is it gonna be confusing to the reader? Because if so, we have to come up with a new plan. I think it's clear enough, at least. Also, it doesn't look unprofessional. I think you can run into some issues of it looking unprofessional if you are constantly referencing, if you're over explaining that, hey, this is happening at the same time as this other thing's happening. Let your slug lines handle that kind of legwork for you, that kind of heavy lifting. Get to the end of it, explosions happen, aftermath, and then you're just going back to normal writing. So now let's take a look and see how Misters Jonathan and Christopher Nolan wrote this sequence. Okay, so wow, it was actually a little bit more violent in the screenplay because they have the Joker spitting out a tooth immediately prior to the first line that we cover, which is "don't worry, I'm going to tell you where they are." So yes, here's where we're picking it up. Spitting out a tooth, both of them. You'll have to choose. The Batman stares at the Joker. I didn't even think about the Batman. The Joker, Avenue X, it's Cicero. Batman drops him. Observation room, MCU, Gotham Central Night. Oh, interesting. In the version that we just looked at, the final filmed version, they meet up. Who are you going to go after?
Which one you going after? Rachel.
Of course, Batman, his heart belongs with Rachel Dawes. He says, Rachel, here, he says, Dent knew the risks. So he's almost condemning him to die. Like, hey, listen, He made a choice, and his choice is what put him here. Wow, victim blaming Batman. Okay, so we do see these little moments of the police getting together. Batman gets on the Batpod, tears off. We find ourselves continuing to go back to screenplays that were written by the person that directed them, which of course is not always the case and isn't the case for most of us. The director can overwrite a screenplay a little bit because they know exactly what they want the pacing to be, what the edits are going to look like a little bit. So we do actually see some of these kind of what I would consider B-roll moments that you might film just to have, and then in editing you'll find a place for them if you need them. In this case, it was completely scripted out, which makes sense because this was a very, very, very deliberately put together movie. I mean, everything about it is so refined and analyzed. It's interesting, they say night each time. Again, something that I wouldn't even bother with because I don't want extra text on the page. I want it just to keep rolling. Boom, boom, boom. Rachel says, Can anyone hear me? Harvey Dent opens his eyes. He's bound to a chair in a dingy, unfurnished basement apartment. Rachel, is that you? Harvey, you're okay. I thought her voice is coming from a speakerphone on the floor. So interesting. I put her dialogue as off camera or off screen. Here, it's not pointed out until after the fact, which I guess is a nice surprise and reveal for the reader. He looks around behind him, metal barrels hooked up to a car battery with a timer counting down 5 minutes. Interrogation room, MCU, Gotham Central, night. Joker sits smiling content. Stevens guards the door. So there is nothing about that this is happening simultaneously as something else. It's just moving forward. I want my phone call. That's nice. How many of your friends have I killed? Wow. So Heath Ledger found that moment mockingly being surprised at how many friends of Stevens he had killed, where he mouths back 6. Fat Thug shuffles. I was calling him a henchman, but Fat Thug. Insides hurt. I mean, as the action builds, we are cutting back and forth between all of these moments. It's never at all called out here. We're back in the warehouse and nothing is pointed out that it's a continuous bit of time, like no time has passed, or that something is happening at the same time as something else. Nothing is being pointed out at all whatsoever. I like that one single word on the slug line, but as we can see here, even that could be considered overwriting a little bit. I mean, this is nothing that would take somebody out of it. So it's going to come down to personal preference. We do have to respect our reader. And if we do the rest of our job well enough, it's going to be apparent when things are flowing, if things are happening simultaneously, one action to another, one scene is happening at the same time as another. You know what? Something else that ties this one, in this case, together is the fact that there's literally a ticking clock timer. So every so often we'll be able to come back in. Oh, here we go. The timer connected to the bomb reads 2:47, 2:46. So that ties this all together. But even if you don't have a literal ticking clock counting down that stitches all of these pieces together, I think it would just kind of become intuitive to the reader after a while. Any reader that is going to be taking a look at your stuff, professional reader, they've read many screenplays, so this probably isn't something that we need to really worry all that much about. But as we sign off, I want to again thank you, Julia, for making the request that led to this video, and ask anybody out there, either if it's a question you have about a certain type of scene, a certain type of action, how would it play out, how would it be scripted, or if you literally just saw something on in a film or on TV and thought like, I don't know how that would look on the page. Drop a line and let's take a look at it together. As always, I want to thank the ISA for creating a great home for writers, and I want to thank Final Draft Screenwriting Software for creating a great sandbox for us all to play in. But for now, that's a wrap, and we'll see you on the next one.